the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Still makes me feel like you're 12 years old.
I have my thoughts too.
I know what you mean about that, though.
Roll call, Tammy?
Ms. Dimitrov?
Here.
Mr. Swatchka Dalton?
Here.
Mrs. Helinski? Here. Mr. Keaton?
Here.
Does anybody have any questions about last month's meeting minutes before we approve it? Do you have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion approved. Audience participation, we have Dr. Julie Peller here to talk to us about the Plastic Reduction Alliance later in the meeting. Adam, I'm gonna ask you to help me talk about the meeting we had at the NERC when that comes around, so. Old business, the bird migration lights out campaign lighting ordinance. Should we try to do this even if the ordinance doesn't pass? Does anybody know what the status is of that ordinance? Tammy?
I do not.
You do not? I think July is when they were talking about voting on it.
The lighting ordinance, they're bringing it up tomorrow. If people had any changes or comments on it, and then they're gonna discuss when to set it for public hearing.
Okay. So we have time to talk about this, but, do we want to do that campaign for residents to get their lights, turn their lights out during migration? Or is that too much for us to take on? We would have to find ways to promote it.
What are you thinking of, I mean, what will we really need to do?
When I look it up in the Audubon website, they do things like do a weekly drive after 11 p.m. to see how many homes go dark. Maybe Calumet Audubon would be willing to help us with this monitoring. Some of them go out at dawn and check for dead birds that have run into houses. Or, I hate to ask people to stay up late and get up early.
I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to be traipsing around anybody's yard looking
No,
for birds.
no. Good way to get shot.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just survey Porter Beach, since it's an area of priority. I'm willing to go out after 11 and see whose lights are out. But I think we need to ask Calumet Audubon to help us. I think Kim In is, I think she's still the president of that chapter, but she does not respond to anyone's emails or text, so I don't know. There's also Brad Baumgartner, who lives, I think he lives around here, but he might be helpful.
When would this need to be? What time frame are we looking at for when we would want to do this?
Well, we just missed the spring one.
Right, so when would the fall one come in typically?
I think it's late August till end of October.
Oh, wow, so about 2 months there,
Yeah.
just before Labor Day till Halloween.
Yeah. So is it an awareness campaign
Yeah.
as well? Like here's some signs,
Ye-
or,
Mhm. I'm wondering about putting in a notice in our sewer bills.
I'm sorry, what?
Putting a notice in the sewer bill? Doesn't everybody get that in Porter?
No,
You don't
I
get
don't, I don't get a paper one, no. They
A
just.
lot of people sign up for e-bills.
Yep.
And it does cost to add notices to the bills.
So there'd be
So
some.
that's a no. Well, we'll think about it over the summer.
I mean, could we find somebody maybe willing to fund some yard signs and just do some yard signs maybe?
We could do that.
like, like bird migration, turn off your lights, or just like the turtles, right? The turtles and the,
Yeah,
and if someone wants to put a sign in their yard that's in the proximity of, what's it, 5 miles from, .5?
We'd like to do it, yeah,
you
we'd
know,
like to do it for all of Porter. But the half mile around Porter Beach is the priority.
Tammy, would Corinne be who we would need to talk about putting something on the website somewhere? Is that Corinne? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk to her about, we can talk to Corinne about if there's something to put on the website somewhere. And I hate to even suggest a brochure or flyer,
Yeah,
Is
But-
that you?
yeah.
but I mean, especially with like a relatively simple one-page, one-sided flyer, just doesn't need to be anything particularly complicated in this case. It's not gonna be a permanent thing right now, and see what kind of response we get. And again, we can see if the libraries or something will carry some for us too, or put a notice up on the library board, just a simple few places around town.
Make a flyer and put it around town.
Yeah, there's places like Red Cup and others, that would, even in Chesterton, that would probably be willing to host them, and a lot of Porter residents go there, so.
Oh, some businesses might support that. If
Yeah.
they're in their window, like Ace Hardware.
Yeah,
that sells
yep, yeah,
Bird
that's,
feed.
some of the ones around, along here,
Yep.
along Maine. Yeah, let me see what I can do for that.
And we can always put it on Facebook.
Yep,
well, that's right, we have a Facebook page now, don't we?
Kinda, sorta,
Kinda, sorta.
indirectly, yeah, with Tara. Did you sign, did you,
I probably did, I
No.
gotta be honest,
did you not?
life has just been with the storms.
We have no Facebook people
and-
here tonight.
So I'm sorry, I hate to keep going here, but that sounds like something Discovery would be all over, like the 4th graders
Mm-hmm.
do a sign or something. I mean, that's kind of like their mission, right? I mean, I don't know,
that's
Check with
true.
Discovery.
And yes, that would start after, technically, that would start after, this would probably need to start, or right at the same time, but it goes for several months, the timing, so what if we missed the first few weeks, we could still they could help get through it as it goes on.
so maybe do it like the springtime or something, I mean.
But even,
When school
but I would
resumes,
think
right.
even if they don't help get the word out until mid-September, that's still 6 weeks or so, about 4 to 6 weeks of migration, where that would still make a difference. So, yeah,
That might be a cool project for them to turn around and to say, I don't know, I think, I don't know who our director was, but she,
Annette.
Annette
Annette
Hansen.
Hansen,
Annette,
she
yeah.
would be interested in that.
I think she'd be into that.
And maybe putting a sign, you
She
know,
might
for
even
the-
do a,
where they
flyer
drop
box.
off and pick up, for
Mhm.
the parents who drop off and pick up, if the school would approve having a sign.
the school might be willing to hand out the flyers or put the flyers up or something like that, or send a notice to the parents. That'd be a bigger ask, but I don't know if that would hurt to ask. If they wanted to start with that, we could always ask if they were willing to say something at the school even about, just mention it for information, ask your child or whatever. Or we have flyers on, or go to the website, go to the Town of Porter website if we can get that up there.
Yeah,
Which I suspect Corinne will, I suspect Corinne will be okay with it, we will check, but I suspect she'd be okay with a brief announcement to that effect. I hope,
I think
but
so.
we'll see. She seems to be good about stuff like that. So,
And I'll check Kathy has some connections with Autobahn, so, well, she can't get a hold of Kim either, but she can talk to Brad Baumgartner.
okay.
And I'd like to start it in the fall, because, it's gonna be a challenge getting the word out and just see how it goes. And then hopefully we'll be ready to roll in the spring, do it again. Sorry.
I think it's a building on the program. You set stuff up, lessons
Yep.
learned, you keep adding, it's not gonna go away, right? So you got two seasons a year.
Mhm.
If something goes that badly with the bird migrations, we probably have bigger problems. The bird migrations at that point, so yeah.
And it'll look great on the Birdtown recertification application. which was my next point, and we have until October 1st to reapply. And Corinne Peppers is offering assistance. I let Kathy know about that. She's gonna work on the application. And she also has a copy of a rough, of the draft of the last application. She says, I don't know where what we turned in for final is at, so, but that's good enough. We'll take it. Anything else anyone wants to say about Birdtown or Lights Out campaign?
I wonder if we could get any support from the national park.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they do have a national park in Porter, so.
Mm-hmm.
I got an email from Rafi Wilkinson wanting to have somebody take the Porter Brickyard Trail and check for downed trees and
Yeah.
stuff.
I saw that one. I've got enough trees down
Yeah.
myself, so.
Yeah, you can check with them. I also started volunteering at the greenhouse with Carrie Sikowski. I can talk to her too.
Oh, the National Park Greenhouse?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
I wish I had
It
the
was
time.
really hot last week. I was gonna pass out. I was hoping for a winter, that would be a winter project, but they had me start in June.
So who's in charge of adding the migration to the website?
We'll talk to
Corinne.
Corinne, Corinne has to do it and
Uh-huh.
approve it. We'll talk to Corinne about that, and then if she's okay with it, we can come up with some content for it. I can put something together probably for that for the next, and if also somebody else already has some information they can provide, I could try to pull something together, or find some information, and then if Corinne's okay with it, we can present that for approval to the group, and then for Corinne for final approval on getting it up.
Okay. Well, I'll be in touch with you. Whether we have a meeting next month or not. Okay. Everybody get to see the native garden brochure?
No, I did not.
It's beautiful. Corinne has printed some up already. There's sitting out there at the pamphlet board. And it looks
QR
like
codes all work?
yeah,
Nice job.
looks like we really got something going on with our gardens there. And what do you think about sending a digital version to Dunes Visitor Center website?
We can do that.
I know the contact person is, I can contact her, Christine, what is her last name?
If you have a relationship with her, let her,
Well,
or
I
know her.
don't have
a
a
bit.
relationship,
Okay.
but I have her email.
If you-
Livingston,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Christine Livingston.
I knew her years ago when we did some work, where I used to work out in Chesterton, we did some work for them. I think I remember who that is. But
Okay.
I can send her at least a PDF that they can post digitally, and if they want something else, we can talk about whether it makes sense to try to format it for a web page or something, but.
They have, as part of their website, other places where you can see wildflowers in the
Okay.
area, and then we can just, I talked to her about it a couple of years ago, and she was excited about it, so.
Oh, okay. And if you want to just give her my email, then to reach out to me directly for it, if I hear from her, I'll use that as a cue. If she says, yeah, you send it, I'll send it along.
All right. Quickly, we'll go over upcoming events. It's this Thursday is the fishing derby. If anyone wants to come, I'm gonna table with IDEM, helping with water quality demos and games. On July 8th is the Plastic Reduction Alliance event at VU at 6 p.m. I plan to go. I hope we can get others to go as well. And July 10th is Bug Night at Hawthorne Park from 7:30 to 10. Are you seeing that out on, well, you guys aren't Facebook, never mind.
I'm on Facebook, but I haven't seen it.
Really? Well, then you're not on Tara's page.
Well, it doesn't mean that I'm not on her page. I check it sporadically.
Okay.
I'm not one of these people that live in my phone, so.
That's a good thing. We need to schedule a native garden maintenance day for July. I was thinking later in July.
Just the heat, that's all.
Yeah,
It's potentially to be.
Well,
It's really hot.
we'll do morning or evening. Saturdays?
Depending on the Saturday, that would be the best for me.
I'd like to do it later because August 11 is our tentative date to do a native garden walk in town.
Ah, okay.
We had to cancel it last year. It's with Emily Brettel from Chesterton's Commission, and she's a big educator with, environmental educator. She works for University of Chicago, and she has her own little business, Miriam. You know Emily, don't you? Miriam.
I believe I've met her before.
Miriam Collaborative is her business. Anyways, she agreed to do a garden walk with us. And the date's August 11th, so. Everybody busy on July 25th?
I could probably do that. That would probably be the best of those, of the 18th and the 25th for me.
Okay.
I think I can probably make it.
Okay.
What time were you thinking?
9 or 10?
AM?
Yeah, or evening. Or is evening better, or?
AM would be better. AM would be better for me, but if the majority could
I think
prefer
it's cooler.
evening.
No, it's okay. Like, so we're saying 9 AM, July 25th.
It's better for as long as we can stand it.
And then August 11th will be our native garden walk. And we might just do these and the one at Hawthorne. And I'm going to talk to Brian about maybe doing a Doug Ptolemy screening there in the park for the evening. And everybody know who Doug Ptolemy is yet? Well, you're gonna know, and he's
He's with the
he's great with-
National, Homegrown National Park?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I've been looking at that, and possibly thinking about getting a little involved.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then our last thing we're going to talk about is the NERC ESC partnership. We had our first meeting on June 6th. The first hour, I think, we just went around the room and each group talked about what they're working on. And I was one of the last ones to go, so I just kind of said, we're doing that stuff too.
Good.
Let's get on with it. But, you know, there was some interesting things, like Michigan City was trying to promote green burial with the, whatever commission or board reviews that kind of thing for Swan Lake Memorial Cemetery. And they asked us to send letters of encouragement to that board. And they had I think they voted on it the following Thursday, and I don't think it got anywhere. But, you know, that's how this business is. You gotta keep trying. And then they talked about a program they want to start that's similar to Minnesota's Green Step Cities, you know, getting points for doing green things. I think that the IDEM Clean Communities program is very similar, but maybe we could work with them and improve on ideas from the Minnesota program.
So, Jenny, I mean, I left the impression of why would we not wanna do the Indiana program, even though Minnesota's better, right? Why wouldn't we want to pursue that? That's what I was a little confused about.
I think IDEM has something already that's very similar to that.
Exactly, right, and then that, I mean, if you do that, I mean, I would think that there's some benefits of doing the same program, but
A meeting was meant to improve networking, and it's just hard. You know, all these groups are doing different things, and it's hard to get it all together. And they also talked about their grant assistance program. And we discussed ways NERC can connect with all of the groups doing environmental work. That meeting was a good start. And Northwest Indiana Region Resiliency is supposed to start a calendar where each ESC can post their events. But I think it's only gonna go out to, you know, people in the choir. I don't know how much helpful that will be, but we could also ask for help from other groups. Anything you want to add about it, Adam? Adam came too.
Yeah, so my impression, I mean, it was good to see bringing the groups together that are doing similar things and learning. I think that was pretty beneficial. I think there's an opportunity for economics of scale. If certain groups, 4 or 5 groups wanted to do the same thing, you know, to help, you know, maybe coordinate that if you're buying signs or brochures or communicating out through Facebook or emails or whatever, that
I like that
it
economics
makes it a
of
lot
scale.
easier than just, you know, everyone doing their own thing. It might not be exactly the way Porter would like to see it, or Chester would like to see it, or Munster like, but if you can, you know, don't let perfection get in the way of good. You know,
Right.
so how do we leverage those resources? Like, one of the things I think, just sitting in these meetings, I think we struggle with is how do we get the messaging out? Well, I sat next to someone that was in WGN that, from Munster, that's his job as a marketer. So how do we, you know, how do we tie into that, or tie into the web, the web, you know, skills? Like, what did that, Kathy mentioned that there's a group that's available that will do free. But you have to go on the website and request it and say, here's.
Time bank?
It's,
Call it Time Bank.
The
I
Time
can't remember
Bank.
the Northwest Indiana Time Bank. But
so I don't know, you know, but if we had a website and we had a communication thing that came over there, that someone would go in and be able to help us and, you know, with the calendar or put all this stuff, you know, I think you have to, you know, you have to ask them, this is what we want you to do, right? And yeah, we're gonna agree to it, but I thought that was a pretty interesting, you know, use of resources that, for a committee that doesn't have a lot of money
Doesn't have any.
and, has what?
Has none
Has none.
whatsoever.
Well, all the other groups are in the same boat.
Yeah,
I think Chesterton might have some money, but they're having trouble accessing it.
yeah. But I think, you know, the other thing I think's interesting is all of the ESC committees are not, and NERC, which is kind of a little bit surprising, none of them are accessing into the government, you know, the government entities that are there to help support some of that stuff. You know, the Indiana Conservation Partners, you know, the Soil and Water Conservation District, the Soil and Water Board, the Indiana Department of Agriculture, the NRCS, you know, these groups that have resources that are on staff that can help us. So like, we talked about the native garden, you know, that is in the wheelhouse of what, you know, what these groups do to help. Just like anything, you gotta build relationships, it's long-term. If you're trying to get some funding or some sources of funding and grants, it takes a while, but once you start, you know, working with it,
You know, when I mentioned who you were and that you were with Porter County Soil and Water, and I said maybe we could give them a seat at the table. They have quarterly meetings for the environmental segment of NERC, and I just got a blank look.
Yeah. And that, you know, that's fine, I think it's how do we align, right? So first you don't succeed, right? How do you align those resources?
And they asked how everybody felt at the end of the meeting. Was this good? Was this bad? And I said, let's just keep trying, keep doing it. Stumble along like everybody else, you know? I think that's it on that, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're ready for Dr. Julie Peller. Come and talk about plastic reduction and how we can partner with her and her group.
Give you guys a card for the organization.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I like to use visuals, so if we have some,
I'm working on it.
okay, thank you.
Did you want these back?
Yeah. Did you get to see this too?
Julie, I need you to state your name and address at the podium so I can get it all down, please.
Sure. Julie Peller.
At the podium,
Oh, at the podium.
yeah.
I'm Julie Peller. My address is 1320 Brassey Avenue in Chesterton.
Thank you.
So I teach in the chemistry department at Valparaiso University, and my background is actually in water quality. And more than a dozen years ago, I started hearing about microbeads in the water. And this is a problem. I've always had an issue with the whole deal with plastics. We've known for a long time that I call them nature incompatible. So when you get out there and all realms of nature, they just hang out. You know, Mother Nature just doesn't know what to do with these. I've done a number of projects related to Lake Michigan and the shoreline, worked with our local USGS. The picture with the scuba diver, chemists don't do that, so we have to team up with people who do that. Got collections of algae. Worked with those and found microfibers. The rest of the pictures here are about what we're finding on the beach, because as somebody who's in water quality, looking at water, what it means for water, and I'll give a little more insight to what I've been doing, but a lot of this comes out of the water too. And my show and tell here, this is from one of the sand paths at Marquette Park. My understanding is that at Market Park, different than our beaches here, they never move the sand around. So you really get the historical picture of what's been going on there when you're in that environment. So this is one sand path that 3 or 4 years ago, when I took some students out to do a beach cleanup, I just kind of went, oh my gosh. And this is just one type of plastic garbage. You can kind of see from our pictures that we're picking up all kinds of stuff. My students have analyzed over 2,000 pieces of these, and by and large, they're all the lightweight plastics that float on water. So I think they're moving with the water, airborne. And this particular path has some sand dunes, so it has kind of a protected area. Last year, I finally said, the guilt had gotten to me, and I said, instead of just going there and collecting pieces that were analyzing and working with in the lab, we need to clean this up. We need to repair this ecosystem. And so in November, early November, we actually had about 25 people from community, from students that came out, and we worked at it. We picked up over 15,000 pieces, and 5,000 of them were these nurdles. By the way, this is the pre-production pellets that the plastic industry makes. They make these, they ship these to companies that then mold them into products. And they've become a huge pollution nuisance. It's amazing to me that we don't hear more about this. I happened to come across an article just today. There's a beach, one of the coasts of India, where just a massive shipment of these ended up polluting the water, which made its way onto the beach. I mean, this is minor compared to what they're dealing with. So the plastic industry they don't have to be held too accountable for all this. You know, we've got a lot of polluters that are in the big world of fossil fuels and, you know, just have a lot of power in this world. Anyway, can you put this on the, so that we can just move from, click that on there. Yeah, the slideshow, and that way we can just have you go to the next one then. I wonder why that's not showing.
That one?
Yeah, how come it's not moving on here?
I don't know.
Maybe we won't be able to do that then.
Those nurdles look like pebbles, and
They
people,
do.
people
Most
just
people
go,
look at
oh,
them,
there's little rocks.
No, they're not rocks. They're
It
not.
won't let me.
Okay, so we'll just go back to the other one and then I'll go to have you go to the next slide.
Okay.
Not working either.
No, it's not letting me do anything.
Did it freeze up on you?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no, it's just,
I was gonna say, where we go where?
just keep this back. For a second I thought, oh, we got a full screen, I must be the slide, but that's not.
There.
I guess I'll just keep talking.
Okay.
So the reality is that we've got so many of these materials in our world. It's considered a global crisis. And, okay, maybe we can go to the second one. There you go.
There it is.
Okay. And that red arrow is showing on the right graph there where we're at. And if the plastic industry has its way, you know, this will triple in the next decades. And given how much pollution we have right now, to me, that's just kind of a horrifying thought. The reality is, this has been, you can see how fast the growth of these materials has been, and the estimates that about half of all plastics ever made were just in the last 20 years. So I see our youth as our guinea pigs as far as what this means for our health as we're learning more and more about the micro and nanoplastics. But people who work in this and research in this was from last year. Plastics are a grave, growing, and under-recognized danger to human and planetary health. And as I go out just to speak, I mean, you guys are more in tune in the environment than most people, but it's not, people know it's not good, but the extent that it's not good, most people are not quite aware of. So if you click on the next slide. Our beaches we love around here, and the reality is if we don't face the issue, we could have shorelines that look like some of the ocean coastlines that are constantly inundated with all the garbage that's in the oceans. Go ahead to the next one. Several years ago, I worked with some students from Portage Middle School, and just kind of realized at that time, we have children now that will never know what a beach looks like free of all this plastic garbage, which to me is profoundly sad. And of course, Lake Michigan provides economic drivers in this area. I kind of gave this presentation to Senator Rodney Pohl, State Senator Rodney Pohl last year, because I said I think that's something that needs to be on our radar. As we have over 2 million visitors to our parks in the area, and it brings in a lot of local business, but as we have more and more of this garbage showing up on our beaches, it's going to be less and less of a beautiful place to go to. Okay, the next slide. Indiana doesn't keep data on what this litter means. Interestingly, Alabama does. In 2024, they said that they spent over, or nearly $10 million just cleaning up litter. If you go to the next one, North Carolina, over $15 million. Litter is mostly plastic. The majority of litter by numbers is plastic. Not surprising, we see that. If we open our eyes, we can see that. So if you go to the next slide, I'm just gonna go through these pretty quickly. And given the way that we use single-use plastics, it's kind of not surprising. 1.5 billion plastic bottles are purchased every day. 5 trillion plastic bags are consumed annually, 160,000 a second. Less than 1% are recycled. Takes 1,000 years for those to break down in the environment. 561 billion individual plastic utensils, 500 billion plastic cups. I mean, these numbers are humongous. And again, every piece that we have is not nature compatible. So my little box here, virtually every piece of plastic ever made exists in some form. These materials weather. You probably all witnessed, you know, if you get enough sunlight, they become brittle. So then we get microplastics and nanoplastics, but they're still those same plastic polymers. This next slide is just kind of some work that I stumbled across in my lab, because when I first started working with these, I was used to working with contaminants that were dissolved, you know, the antibiotics and the herbicides that were dissolved in water. Like, how do you test these things? These are particles, and they don't even mix with water until they do. So our discovery was that we had kind of this little oily substance, and just a fraction of a drop that we added to that vial that you see on the far left. And after mixing it, we ended up with this cloudiness. And that's when I realized how easy it was to make these nanoplastics. And these plastics particles, plastic actually has the ability to mix to some degree with water. Given that we have all of our drinks in plastic bottles, that's not a good thing. So we did a bunch of analyses. After we took off the floating pieces on the top there out, and we let it, the rest of the water evaporate, you could see the residue that was on the bottom that was suspended in there. So that was a huge eye-opener for us, because I'd always been under the impression the reason you have bottled water in plastic bottles because it doesn't interact, but in fact we know better now. And we know that whenever you drink bottled water, you're consuming micro and nanoplastics. So if you go to the next slide, this is one of the best studies done. I'm in the midst of reviewing another one, but there have been other ones because I'm always trying to tighten up and optimize the way we do this. But in the lower box there, 1 liter of water was determined to contain around 250,000 plastic particles, mostly under a micrometer in size, so we can't see them, but they're in there. And then when we look at them under the microscope, the right images are what these particles look like when we look at them under a microscope. So the reality is that these plastic materials are not just a nuisance in our environment, but they're likely affecting our health as well. So as you go to the next slide, just kind of summarizing, plastic waste doesn't decompose. Again, nature doesn't know what to do with it. It accumulates. We see more and more of it on the roadsides if it's not being cleaned up. It fragments into smaller pieces. We talked about all those different plastic disposable items. And then I could spend a whole lot of time talking about all the chemical additives that are in there as well, which are a real threat to our health, and nobody has to tell you what additives are put into their plastic products, which is unfortunate. And then the reality for the environment is that most of our plastic that we use is not recyclable. And so we just really don't have answers for this. So if you go to the next slide. Currently no solutions. We don't have any solutions. So that's our reality to this. We bury most of it. It goes in landfills. I've heard people use the term plasticine. We're going through that, you know, maybe generations ahead of us will figure this out and stop using these or come up with something that is nature compatible and go, wow, what did they do all those years? We tried to have global talks for years now. Those have collapsed. The problem is that the plastic producers get to be at the table, so they intervene. We have a massive waste problem on our hands. Okay, then the next one. The United Nations message, what the blue arrows are, decades of overuse, a surge in short-lived single-use plastic has led to global environmental catastrophe. So the whole crisis are not my words, but this is the reality. So the next slide, which we will be able to scroll through, there's a whole bunch, I had a whole bunch of images on here, but we're finding that these are affecting human health. And I think if you go to the next slide, to me this kind of is the most groundbreaking. This came out early last year about a study on human brains. I don't know if any of you had come across that in the news. And then one of the things that I find that is that when we hear, we get this great research that goes out into the news, it goes out, and then you never hear of it. You can't, it was out there, and that's it. And so if you missed it, you missed it. But I met these researchers at a conference last summer. I told them that to me this was groundbreaking. They had brains from people that had recently died, and they had brains from people who had died a decade earlier, and they found that the load of plastic was much more in the recent brains than, and 50% more, I think, than in the ones that had passed away 10 years before. So going back to this, how this rise in plastics in our exposures keeps increasing. So if you go to the next slide, they told me that in their when they were interviewed about this, and this went worldwide, they said, the reporters asked, can you tell us what would this be like? Who knows what 7 grams? It's like a plastic spoon, but they were basing that on what they had analyzed in the frontal lobe in the brain, which tends to accumulate a lot more, which they realized later. So it's not that much, but I went to my lab and went, okay, here's a vial, what 7 grams of plastic would look like? And my students went crazy going and grabbing all kinds of different plastics and weighing about 7 grams. But the reality is the brain actually concentrates this more. They had also looked at the kidneys and the liver and found much more in the brain. It doesn't have this ability to flush contaminants out as well as some of our other organs. I'm not a biologist, so I'm going to kind of leave it at that. But they also found 3 to 5 times higher levels in the brains of dementia patients. So the reality is we all have micro and nanoplastics in our bodies. And we have to think about how to reduce that, because I think the more and more information we find out, that this is a growing area of research. I don't think that the message is going to be very good. So anyway, just trying to give you a little background on the issue and why I become passionate and not just sitting in my labs and teaching my courses, but going, more people need to know about this. When I discovered that in my own lab, I went, no, more people need to know about this. This is invading our worlds to a great extent, and we need to be able to say no. So if you go to the next slide there. So the threats to the human environmental health from these plastics can be addressed, initiated at this local and state levels, and that's kind of how the Plastic Reduction Alliance came about. You've been around as we've kind of evolved, Jennifer, so you kind of have seen this all kind of grow. We became a nonprofit last year, so we're brand new sort of in this world of nonprofits, and I'm trying to learn that world too. But what we find is that my world, I'm an educator, so that part of it is what I always see is what I can do well. But we want to partner with all kinds of organizations, including municipal committees and commissions like you guys. We have partnered with the city of Gary, given that that's happening over there, and we've been talking with them. They're very much changing the way that they're doing things in their government. government buildings because of recognizing the threats of plastic. So there are things I feel that can be done at the local level. Like I said, internationally, we can't get anywhere. Nationally, not gonna be surprised either that we can't get anywhere. On state levels, it's happening. Okay, there are a lot of states that have moved legislation forward. My older daughter lived in New Jersey when they banned single-use plastic bags there. She said, boy, did people just throw a fit. But they adapted, 6 months later. There's not as much of that garbage out there. And so a lot of these states that have made these policies and laws have had the studies done to show that, yeah, in fact, you don't have as much of this garbage around for obvious reasons. So that definitely works. And unfortunately, in the state of Indiana, we have a law in place that prohibits local governments from putting in those kinds of bans. So if the town of Porter wanted to say, you know what, we don't want our businesses giving out plastic bags, by law, you cannot do that. Now, the private companies can, but as a municipality, you can't do that. So that's definitely one of those things that was part of what I had addressed with Senator Paul when I said, how do you go about changing this? Especially given, our supermajority in the state of Indiana. And he said, well, maybe it becomes more about giving local governments back the ability to make that decision on their own, which I thought was an interesting perspective he had, because here, we don't want all this garbage, given we have the Lake Michigan area. Maybe other places around the state don't care, but we do care. But anyway, that's just one example. If you go to the next one, we all know there's things that we can do personally, and we definitely promote that. I think what I find as I teach younger students, they don't know anything but a world where everything's plastic, because that's all they've seen in the world. Being an older person now, I can remember back when Coca-Cola only came in returnable glass bottles. So I have a different view of this and that I can share with them, saying there are actually alternatives to this. But go ahead to the next one. So, as I mentioned, legislation is actually the best way to reduce these single-use plastics. And I'm not a person that thinks, oh, plastics are bad, and they are very useful in some realms. We way overuse them, especially the single-use ones. And one of the perspectives that I always try to draw on is that these are made from fossil fuels, oil and gas, which only took hundreds of millions of years to form in the ground. We mine these and we make them into something that we use one time, and then when we throw them away and get rid of them, they become a real nuisance. So sort of looking at from the big picture here, we really need to rethink the way we do things. So education awareness campaigns are a lot about what the Plastic Reduction Alliance is doing, but we also suggest in the government level, there could be local decrees and ordinances in your government buildings and functions and public spaces and operations. There could be different ways of going. You can decide that we're not going to have plastic water bottles in the way we function anymore, and that's one of the things that City of Gary decided. They were going to put up water stations, filter water stations, and phase out all of their single-use plastic bottles, and so things like that. Yeah, just as government entities, just trying to encourage reduction of single-use plastics. And you guys were talking about getting the word out and creating awareness, and that's what we all are struggling with these days. We're also working on a campaign to ditch disposable plastic bags. I actually had updated this, but it wasn't on my flash drive. Another thing that I've been noticing a lot of, and that I've just been hearing a lot of too, is that when new grass is grass seed is put out, so if you're trying to grow new grass. And I've seen this at the schools and the parks, and, they use a netting, I don't know if you've noticed.
Plastic netting.
It's a plastic netting, and I remember years ago, a landscaper said, well, that biodegrades. So of course I took it into my lab, I know this is not a biodegradable plastic, this is our normal plastic. You know what it does? It creates microplastics in the soil, and so it contaminates the soil. In agriculture, they use a lot of the plastic films to hold down weeds, weed growth, or to hold moisture in. And again, that eventually fragments down into microplastics. And so by using some of these kind of traditional ways that we've adopted for either growing grass or doing landscaping, we add more pollution to our environment. So things like that could be part of maybe your local ordinances or suggestions that you put out to people. My husband said to me the other day, he's a retired teacher from Chesterton High School, and he said they're putting in the artificial turf at the baseball and the softball fields. And a few years back when they were switching out and bringing in a new artificial turf in the football field, I got in touch with the superintendent and I said, I want you to know that we know that this, from an environmental chemist perspective, this makes microplastics. I know that it also is a health issue because of the heat and the chemicals that are part of, and in the hard surface that can affect kids' joints. And I'm just reading at the same time he's telling me this about how this international soccer craze, where we have lots of our football fields in this country where these soccer games are being played, these elite athletes are telling them, we don't want to play on your artificial turf. So they've had to take the artificial turf out and grow grass for them. And actually a lot of professional athletes don't like playing on the artificial turf. And again, I could spend a whole lot of time talking about that. But all these sorts of things I feel like we don't pay enough attention to, and we need to have these discussions at least at the local government level. So when our schools decide we're going to add more artificial turf, commissions, yours, Chesterton's, can come together and say, we really need you to rethink this, what this means, not just for the health of our environment, but our kids going forward. So again, all these are sort of reasons why we decided to create this nonprofit and to try to work more with municipalities, businesses, organizations, anybody who wants to work with us. So if you want to partner with us, we'll put you on our website. We'll, in some ways I feel like we're partnered anyway because Jennifer comes to our meeting and she's in tune to this. But these are just some of the things that I would throw out there to consider going forward to try to reduce the plastic footprint. I'm going to have you go down. Oh yeah, let's go to that one. So just want to share with you benefits. There are obvious benefits, especially for you folks who are in tuned environment. Get a more healthy and beautiful area, especially given our lake shore that we have here. It really can be a cost savings to business over time, because usually that's the number one excuse that you hear. Cost savings to municipalities, we're spending a lot of time, as I just showed you from data from 2 states, picking up trash. And then it's about teaching and modeling healthy behavior. I feel like our children are guinea pigs, honestly. I have grandchildren, it really concerns me for them. One thing I didn't even touch on was all of our polyester clothes, and some work that I'm doing with my students is we're gathering up dust samples, and you'd be surprised in our dust when you look under the microscope. Some samples are almost all fibers from our carpet, our clothing, etc. So for our kids, think of our kids, human health benefits, pride in the communities, being leaders in the state of Indiana. And then I happened to meet those other scientists at a conference in Switzerland. Somebody had to go. And maybe the best thing about going there was this town in Switzerland. There was a scientist from Switzerland who said, here's what's happening with plastics around the world. It continues to grow the use of it. He goes, this is what's happening in the country of Switzerland. It was going on the other trajectory. And his statement was because we get it. But we have to talk about it. We have to educate about it in order to get it. And I could not, I'm always taking pictures, you see no pictures on my phone, most of them are plastic garbage because I put them in my I couldn't find plastic garbage there. And if you went to the restaurants and places, they didn't use single-use plastic there. So it can be done. I mean, it's just trying to change those habits. And first, making people recognize why they need to change those habits, because most of what we do with the single-use plastics just is easy. It's convenient. If you can go just 2 down.
Which one? 21?
Yeah, that one. So we're doing all kinds of stuff. Working with the YMCA's, Girls on the Run. Again, partnering with as many people, organizations, who want to be committed to this is really the way we want to go. We're a small organization right now. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Thanks for.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I saw on your slide on things, are you pursuing a legal avenue? I mean, you talk about, my age too, growing up, people smoking until they got the class action lawsuits. Did the cigarette companies really get serious about what they were doing?
Right, it's a great comparison.
And we have other dangers of chemicals
Yeah,
that we dealt with when we were growing up too, so.
I have some friends who are environmental lawyers. I get mixed information from them about how you go about this. We're growing a group in Indianapolis where our elected officials spend a lot of their time, we are planning to try to meet with them more. I was so appreciative that Senator Pohl let me talk to him about it. He admitted, I didn't know anything about this. So if we have a whole bunch of elected officials that really don't even know how critical of an issue this is, that's when we need to start. We need to find time to meet with them, talk with them about this, and try to impress upon them how important it is to address it. So I think that's number one, but yeah, I don't know.
But if people are getting sick and they are having.
That's gonna come out, right.
So right there, that would be the
Yeah.
avenue to set the stage.
The cause and effect is very difficult to do. Okay, I don't know if you've been following any of the movement with PFAS as a contaminant. So that's been addressed at both the state and now the EPA, although they're trying to loosen that now. But there's a lot of firefighters whose gear is loaded with these chemicals to repel water and to repel fires. They have a much higher cancer rate. And so there's, you have what seems to be a good cause and effect, but I tell you, that's just a hard thing to prove. And I don't see us being able to do that with plastics for a while. I see how long it's taken to get this information about this classic chemical compounds to where we're at.
Sure. I mean, it's no different than asbestos
Yeah.
or DDT.
Well, but it is, because it's in all of our lives.
Sure.
It's in all of our lives, and PFAS is to some degree too. That's called forever chemicals. We call these the forever
Well,
materials. So,
asbestos was in everyone's life too.
Well,
Home materials,
yeah,
it was all over the place. I mean,
yeah.
Brake linings, getting in a traffic jam,
yeah, it's-
there was
I mean,
asbestos in the air.
in your schools,
Yeah,
so,
in a different way, you're right, in a different way it was. We weren't drinking out of a bus those bottles, but yeah.
But I realize, I mean, with some of the research that you're doing and connecting those dots, and I didn't know if there was, yes, there's education with that stuff, but also, you know, here's the plastic bags, right, so, you know, I don't know what I don't know what that answer is, I just was
Well,
wondering.
things like that, to me, that should be low hanging fruit for society. There's an easy
You would think.
solution to that.
But there's also companies, you know,
Yeah.
the other thing, I think from an economic standpoint, there are companies that are very conscientious. I know Aldi, for one, does a lot of sustainability with the stuff. I don't think you can get a plastic bag, you know.
Yeah, but they have everything wrapped in plastic in that store,
Yeah.
so,
But that's,
yeah,
you know,
but, yeah, I hear you.
but it.
Why
but-
can't
but
the
I
green
think-
peppers be loose?
Exactly.
But,
Exactly.
so what's the alternative? Buy some land, get some cows, I mean, that stuff takes time.
Oh, no,
You
no,
know,
no,
Okay.
I think if you look in your life, and one of the things I ask my students to do, I go, do a plastic survey in your life, you know, what you find. And there was a great article a couple years ago in the New York Times, this journalist decided to document, or try to live his day without any plastic. And it was kind of humorous, but it was pathetic, because you can't.
Not if you
Even
include
from
long-term
switching
plastic,
on
right?
your lights in your home.
Yeah.
right?
The
It's
carbon
such a
cycle.
thing. So there's so much of it, so, and like I said, I don't have issue with, I mean, it functions very purposefully in a lot of ways, but you think about the packaging, so that's one of the things,
But-
packaging. We
but
don't
I think-
need to use it in packaging the way that we do, I mean, even things that you get packaged in a box and you find, okay, you could have used a box that was a third of that size and put a little paper in there, instead you get this great big box full of plastic, right?
Or the box inside the box.
Right, exactly.
But part of their policies and part of what they're going after is for that reduction, and they need options to be able to provide, you know,
Yeah.
for those options, but they have made, they have made change.
So we're working with a company in Chicago, and it's called Elevate Packaging. We're hoping to start to do kind of a, pilot project at the university to use these gloves that they tell us are as compostable, they break down just as quickly as an apple core. And to try to switch these out with the plastic ones they currently use. The challenge is for all the people who wear these in food services is to go, okay, don't throw them in the garbage, but put them over here and allow them for the county's compost pile, where they should be able to break down the compost pile. So I think that maybe we'll be finding substitutes that are not so harmful to the environment, to human health, for a number of different purposes. And to me, this was an obvious one, because a lot of people that use gloves in their work, and why not use ones that are at least environmentally sound?
May I see?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think the engineering, you know, different solutions for what that is. I know that all plastics are not created equal, depending upon,
Correct, yeah,
you know,
for
what
sure.
that structure is, and like you said, here's the one-use plastics, right? So,
Yeah.
but I mean, when you take a look at, you know, the amount of water bottles, right, that everyone likes to talk about.
Yeah, they're not good for you. It's not good to be drinking like
And
that.
and the horrible
Can I
thing of
talk
it
on-
is, how often do you see one that's still half full
Yeah.
being thrown away?
Yeah.
I threw away
That-
3 of
that-
those today.
Yeah.
And at work at a vehicle that, you know,
My wife will do that, and it infuriates me, so it, I'm not exactly a non-plastic user. I mean, I use a lot of it myself, I'll admit, because like you say, it touches every part of our life. But there are some things, you know, like, I use, grocery bags for my trash bags. I've never bought a trash bag in
Yeah,
30, 40 years. You know, I've never bought a plastic trash bag other than some big ones for, you know, parties and such like that, but I have one question for you though about the AstroTurf that kind of,
Yeah.
piqued my interest is, now, when they plant grass, they're going to dump fertilizer on it. They're gonna dump weed killers on it. They're gonna dump, I mean, so which
They
one?
don't have to, but they're
Well, no,
going to, you're
they're
right,
going
they
to.
don't have to,
Yeah,
though.
they're going to, because it's, believe me, to have a nice grass, that's what you gotta do, and unfortunately, that is the largest crop we have in this country, is grass, which
Yeah,
is
it's insane.
kinda stupid,
Yeah, it is,
And less worthless.
yeah.
yeah.
But it's just, that kind of, I thought to myself, I wonder how much difference it actually makes. But the general public is probably your worst enemy. I had my neighbor tell me that they never use Roundup, within 100 feet of their well. And I looked at him and said, well, what makes you think that the Roundup doesn't get into your well? Well, we're 100 feet away. I said, no. I says, it goes into the groundwater, and the groundwater goes everywhere. So,
Yeah, no, you're right, there needs to be an education on that as well, because that's also contaminating us and our children and our pets in a big way, yeah.
and it comes in a plastic bottle.
Thank you.
Would you be willing to come and do this for a town council meeting?
Sure. Yeah.
Have you been to Chesterton yet with this kind of thing for their ESC or town council?
No.
I only ask this because something occurred to me sitting here. When you go to the grocery store, if you go to the self-checkout, you have two options, neither which is awesome. I mean, granted, paper bags aren't great if you can't bring your own, but they make it really convenient to use the plastic one-use bags
Oh, yeah.
because they're right. They don't offer paper for one, so you have to either bring your own or go with the plastic. And number two, every time I try using the reusable bags we have, I always have to wait for somebody to come over to approve the bags because of the weight issues now, right? Because they do the scales are designed to prevent shoplifting. So we've traded this sort of convenience of, well, I don't have to wait for the person to come over and help me with because if it's the plastic bags, it doesn't change the scale weights, right? But when I put out any reusable bag, I've always had somebody say, oh, that extra half an ounce or ounce or two of that black bag is now throwing off their scales for making sure you're not stealing from them. So it's a bizarre way. We've made things convenient for people to check out for short orders, but we're now also actually encouraging them in a way to use one-use plastic bags.
Well, it would actually be in their benefit to use the one-use plastic bags, or not the one-use plastic bags, but the, your other people's bags, because they're going to weigh more, so now you just bought another half a peach. Because your bag weighed more, and so they're profiting off of that.
Yeah,
I don't understand why they would be against that one.
but it's something that I know go ahead.
Is your spreadsheet available?
I'd be happy to send you the slides if you want them, yeah.
And-
I can send
and-
those to you, Jen.
And I wonder, I'm curious, your alliance, how large are you? Are you
Well,
just
we're-
regional, or are you?
Well, we've expanded into the Indianapolis and southern Indiana, but, so we're trying to create a team, like we have a team here. There's a few people that set up a table for us at, a community party just this past week, and so we are starting to spread our wings, but like you guys were talking about, trying to find funds and convince people, not enough, even the foundations don't understand how critical of an issue this is right now,
That's
so.
the thing. And as far as the one thing that what I'm getting from you, what I'm hearing, is the one that's most fearful, the striking fear, is our kids are drinking out of water bottles.
Not just
Now,
that, everything is
the-
packaged in plastic anymore,
Yeah.
it's just,
Now-
I mean, that's just one example.
Right. If a parent buys reusable water bottles, is there a grade of these bottles that aren't
Yeah,
as
stay away
harmful?
from the plastic ones, you've got a stainless steel one there, right?
Okay.
That's the
So
way to
even
go.
like a nail gene, if it's
Stay away from those,
it's just as bad.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay away
Yep.
from those. I was horrified years ago, for some reason, I didn't realize that in our school cafeterias, we no longer had real plates and silverware and trays, and all of this is now packaged in plastic. Everything that we, provide for our children And the amount of waste that's created, I have slides on another presentation where I talked about this. It's alarming. And again, what we're teaching them is that this is how you should live your life, where you get something and you use it once and you throw it away. And it's not sustainable at all. That's just not a sustainable model regardless. When you have that, what we call a linear economy versus a circular economy, where you keep your resources in circulation as opposed to just, mining, making, throwing away, using and throwing away. So, which the sustainability we'll call a linear versus a circular economy.
I think I should probably adjourn and then keep talking to you afterwards. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I'm,
Okay.
you can tell I can talk about this for a long time.
And
there's
we
a
need
lot
to
of
talk.
sort of aspects of it, but, thanks for having me, because this
Thank
is
you.
how
Thank
we-
you. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you for helping.
I'll motion.
Second?
Sure.
I'm one of the most